Welcome to the second episode of the Clutch Kick for 2019. I wasn't really ready for that, so yeah. Anyway, I'm one of your hosts, EG, and to the left or right of me is Greg.
Welcome.
Welcome. So unfortunately, we don't have a guest today. I was actually banking on someone coming on. After meeting them on the weekend for the first time, which is cool. But I think he's a bit shy at the moment, so
I don't think Cinnamon from your local strip club really wanted to come on the show though.
Oh no, she did. She really. No, I told her about the clutch kick, and she was so keen. And then she's like, oh, I thought I've seen you before. And
So many people are going to be convinced that this is a true story.
huh?
I said
That isn't, or it is.
Nah, people are going to think it's a true story, or isn't. Ooh, we
Ooh.
just got a bit scandalous there.
I don't think you know my history, Greg.
Nah, now that I say it, I'll just stop there.
Okay, so no guests for today, unless he or they suddenly sort of change their mind, but we'll work them on if they do feel like they want to come on.
They're not watching
I
currently.
really want them to come on. No, I really want them to come on. But anyway, so what to begin with is news.
Yeah, just D1NZ this weekend. Matty Hill's back over there. I believe he's in the camo moat car that he drove at World Time Attack. That I think's had a couple of changes done to it. The purple car that he drove last season has stayed in Japan, and he's driving the car that he had at World Time Attack, which was driven by Camo Moat the year before at World Time Attack. So another Foreman's S15, and yeah, that car's going to be out. I think there might have been some changes to it, but we'll wait for the weekend to see. It's also the round that, no, is this the round that he won last year? Did he win round 1 or round 2 last year? Might have been round 2 that he won last year, but I know it was one of the indoor stadiums. So indoor stadium, concrete, looks fresh. Hopefully they got a good crowd there. And yeah, start to a fairly big season. Looks like they've cut out a round this season. They've cut down the number of rounds, but I would imagine that's due to costs and stuff like that. But best of luck to Matty from us here, and I'm sure everybody else in Australia wants to see him go over there and kick some Kiwi ass. So good luck to Matty this weekend. I'm not sure about live streams and things like that. If we see anything pop up, we'll throw it up on the community page. But other than that, yeah, not really too much going on at the moment. It's sort of our quiet period.
Yeah.
And
bit of a lull, isn't it, at the moment? It's sort of everyone's either away on holidays because of Christmas, or they're getting back and recovering. I know you started back at work this week, and
yeah, I've had enough.
Struggling at the moment.
Yeah, I've had enough. I just need to win the 80 mil on whatever night that is tomorrow night, and I'll put us all into retirement.
Yeah, nice.
EG
what else?
EG, you'll be my full-time battle partner. You don't need a job anymore, mate.
You got to get better first, though.
Well, I would hope I would get better really quickly with you running into the back of me. But we could always do, like, if that ever happened, we could do EG's Global Shit Talk Tour, and we just send you around different events, and you can live stream and criticize.
Oh yeah, actually that probably gives us lots of views as well. Because I was just looking back at our history today, and it looked like doing that shit talk video, actually we gained a few viewers because of that.
Well done. So you need to get on top of that.
So it's like that old saying: any publicity is good publicity.
So we'll see you at Calder Park in March.
No. No. Got more important places to be.
What's on that weekend?
No, not that weekend, but that month.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Revo days have been announced and confirmed now. So the first is in March.
And they've added a new date that's up at Port Macquarie.
Yeah,
So that should be good. Are you gonna try and get to Port Macquarie before that?
probably not.
Or you think that might be your first, your popping your virginity at Port?
At this stage, that would be the first one. So,
You definitely need to get your cooling sorted out by then. I'd hope
I
so.
might
It's like
have
it's like October, so I'd hope you did. But
I might have the 180 running again because I told you what happened.
so what? So explain to us, because the 180's been out of commission for over 12
year.
months.
Yeah.
What was wrong with the 180?
To begin with, well, actually, no, I did do an engine swap. So to begin
Oh,
with,
so you've put a different engine in it because it had rod knock.
No. I assumed it was a ring, so I was at the Revo day. I think it was the second session. So I was spewing out smoke out the back, like so much. And I thought, oh, something wrong. And then I sort of backed off a bit and I thought it was still smoking like crazy and coming out the engine, the bonnet as well, like where the panel joins are. And I thought, oh shit, the engine's on fire. So I stopped, got out, had a look, and no, it's just coming out the dipstick and every other hole that the engine had. And I drove it back in, and yeah, it was. My guess is rings or the pistons melted or something. It's just letting oil burn through the engine somehow. So I bought this engine, a spare engine. I'm pretty sure I explained this before last year, but I bought a spare engine from another guy who said it was a bit smoky but still ran. I put that in, but it only ran on 3 cylinders. So I went, all right, well, I'm out of engines, or I'm out of red top SRs. So put on the trailer, push the trailer into the back corner of the backyard.
With 1,600 other cars.
Yep, and then I left it there. And then last week I got my Silvia kind of running, so my road car, but the wheels and tires are on the 180, so I had to unload the 180 to get the wheels off because I can't get the wheels off on the trailer because the trailer has sides on it. So I unloaded the 180 and it ran fine, except it's still blowing lots of oil at the back, like the guy said. So I might have to go do some testing in that car to see.
But running on all 4.
It's running on all 4.
But you did rewiring, or was that for your 13?
No, it's my 13. I did rewiring. Yeah.
Okay. Huh.
Yep.
So you're gonna take it out for some street lamp inspections just to see if it's all well and good, and maybe lay down some oil if it decides to chuck a leg.
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
SR problems, mate.
Yeah, SR life. Actually, having said that, my car, my 13 did break down yesterday, but I'm hoping it was I was just out of fuel, so I had to get Rob to come rescue me.
That's potentially a problem. Yeah, keep fuel in your gas.
I don't know, because it has a problem with the usual chassis fuel tank issue. Oh no,
yeah.
Just 13 fuel tank issue where the gauge just suddenly goes to max or it goes to nothing, like way below nothing. So the fuel level thing's like stuck one or the other way. I don't know. I think it's because the baffle's broken off and it's just jammed the sender. So I have no idea how much fuel's in that thing, and I just sort of kept putting like little bits and pieces because you want to fill the tank, and then for the engine to blow up or not run, and then have it to park with a full tank. So I just kept putting little bits of fuel in. So I thought I had enough to get to work and back, but didn't.
Well, so. I guess with the 180, if it is low comp, well, you could probably run it now and actually comp test it and see what it's doing. But
yeah,
if it's low comp, just put a big turbo on it and run a shitload of boost. It's a low comp motor, more boost.
The other thing it could be is just the stem seals as well.
Yeah, just keep smashing on it. Or just change the head.
Yeah, just get new stem seals and replace the
Just
The
be
head
ghetto and
gasket.
just be ghetto and just change the heads. Put the one off the other motor in there.
Yeah, I could actually. Yeah, you're right.
Just do the 100% ghetto way of doing it. Just be like, oh, well, that head works, so we'll just swap it over.
Yeah, it's cheaper.
Definitely.
Um,
No guarantees though.
no.
So on the weekend, your local white person festival was on.
White person. Hey, that's a good comment because, um, so yeah, there was drifting on at Summits this year. Like, it's different to the previous years that they had it because,
So they've had drifting at Summernats previously.
yes, they did because they had Bolger and I think they had Mingay doing demos, but they did it on the dirt oval.
Yeah.
But they had
But
a few issues.
but that's
I
that's
think Mingay
that's the only
crashed.
that's the only drifting they've had previously though, right? Like it's never been tarmac stuff, or if it has, it's always been some sort of demo, more so than
As far as I can remember, I haven't been to all of them,
yeah.
so I'm not a diehard fan. I just sort of go occasionally. So I've been to maybe five, six, seven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dishy, you headed out on the Saturday.
Yep.
Did you watch the drive through the city at all on the Thursday, Friday, whatever day that was?
No, they had the city cruise. I think it's Thursday at midday and Friday at midday, and I missed both of them.
Okay.
I was thinking about going down to have a look on Friday, but this year so in the previous years before that, I used to work a bit closer to where they have the cruise, and I could actually just walk down and see it. This year it was a bit further away, so I could have driven down, but then it's too much effort. It's too hot, so I didn't go.
Yeah, fair call.
Yeah.
So drifting demos, well, dedicated track for drifting demos. I guess similar sort of layout to sort of stuff that's run at QR for when they run demos at Jamboree. Sort of similar to the sort of stuff that we've seen previously out at Western Sydney for
Yeah.
just sort of a
Really tight.
yeah
Yeah.
a concrete enclosure basically for drift demos to go down, but with sort of the limited space that's actually tarred within that facility, it looked like what they gave them, decent speed. Looked like you could get in top a second for part of it, and then sort of probably
Yeah.
clutch kicking the crap out a second to drive out of the corners.
So you could see it's probably to have a look better. It's probably better to have a look at videos. But I was actually surprised that initially like that they got that space because I didn't think they would be allowed to have drifting there. Just didn't seem like a place that would be able to facilitate it. But it was actually really good. The setup was good. It'd be nice if it was a bit bigger, so if they can somehow expand it. But there is an access road really close to their demo area, so yeah, it's really tight. There's not really that much sealed skid panny sort of areas around there. But the setup was good because they had the spectators and the pit area inside the shed, and then where they were actually doing the drifting and the driving was on the outside. So the cool thing was that you're out of the weather, so you're out of the sun, you're out of the rain because it did rain a bit on Saturday, and they had a grandstand in there. Well, they had
a couple of grandstands that look like from.
Yeah.
I know when Ben messaged me, Ben Meir was one of our guests last year, and he was down there doing demos. And as soon as he arrived, and I asked how he made it down from Newcastle and made sure everything was all good for the trip down, and he was just excited that the pit area was fully covered and didn't have to stress about any of that stuff for the weekend, and said that other than the fact that there was actual drifting at Summernats, that it was really nice to have that that nice enclosed space to be able to pit with no stress at all, worrying about the weather setting in or having to pack up at night time or anything like that. That it was just all there.
Yeah.
And then it looked like the spectator area, sort of where the grandstands were backed onto, it was fenced off to the pit area, so you could put your car on display, but also have your stuff far enough away that your belongings were safe as drivers.
No, they were on. Yeah, they were fenced off, so they were on the inside.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the closest that the spectators could get was on the other side of a fence when the drivers did bring the cars next to it. There's only a few that sort of worked close to the fenced area where the spectators could get to. Otherwise, yeah, their pit area was sort of in the middle, was sort of away from the spectator line. So yeah, it was good. Like the setup was good. Wish the track was a bit bigger. I think you could actually click second, but there was a few people that kept it in first.
Really?
Yeah, they just stretched it out. You can hear them.
Just bash on the limiter.
Yeah. So I was speaking to Peter, the guy from Drift Cadet who organised the event, and he had a lot of work to do to get things happening there, drift wise. And apparently they approached him, I think it was, if I heard it correctly. So I think Summonats or whoever's the owner or the manager, one of the managers, wanted another display, and so then I think his name came up because he did the MotorX exhibition, and that was really good. Like I think he had lots of good references from that, and so that's why they sort of spoke to him and they organised to have drifting at Summonats. So that was really cool because it's really hard to get anything sort of drifting in Canberra. It's difficult. I know there's been a few guys.
Is that a legislation thing? Because somebody's asked in the comments, like, what sort of chances are there of having practice for non-regoed cars at that sort of thing, or is that like way too many hoops to jump through?
No, I think it'd be one of those you have to sort of get it established and then run a few really like safe conservative events and then get people used to the idea that it's happening, and then it's possible to do it there rather than people saying no, you can't do it because it's too dangerous, and they just don't have any understanding. Whereas this sort of establishes that it is possible to do it. These guys did it without any injuries, and nothing that's what they're called near misses as well.
Yeah, I guess the only major thing would be that to run any sort of semi-permanent events down there or regular things, if the barriers became an expectation because that's what they're running at these sort of events, then it's sort of going to be a write-off at that stage, because I would imagine that the cost of getting the concrete brought in is probably almost going to outweigh any sort of income that you can make from the event, and then also the fact that if it's all first gear stuff, then it becomes a bigger issue. You'd be ideally if you were trying to make it a regular thing, get rid of the walls and turn it into a Motorcana style thing like you guys do out at the other venue.
Yeah, I think the other venue would be better for a practice day.
But if they don't like skid marks on their ground, then there's not much you can do about that.
Yeah, I really don't like their view on that. So I can understand a few things. So like if you're completely destroying the facility, but that's a driving facility. It's not like it's not a garden kind of thing. Like you're not there to see how pretty
their bitumen is.
Yeah, you're meant to be driving on it. So yeah. Anyway, that's what I don't get. I can get it, the facility being like, if people come there and then like they litter even, like, or they do like really dumb things like intentionally crash into each other, or I don't know, just something that seems kind of unacceptable.
Yeah.
To a point, then yeah, I can understand. We don't want that particular event there, but yeah, with Summon that's yeah, it'd be interesting to see how much the barriers cost, because I think they would have just been absorbed by the event itself. So that's probably
Oh,
what helped.
yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah.
But those barriers aren't fixed as well, because I don't know if you saw, but Brad Tui actually came off once when he finally got his car running. It's the loudest thing ever. I reckon it's one of the loudest drift cars in Australia.
Oh, for sure. But he's also got his muffler set as well. The last, the last Revo day, he had big mufflers on it.
Did he?
Yeah,
I think.
he's got a big set of mufflers for running at other tracks and things like that. I think when he shows up to events like this and he can get away with it, then he goes full noise, because it's cool. Like, it's not cool, but it's cool at the same time.
I think he's like annoying, ear piercing.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it loud, but that's like way too much. That's
You think he needs
hearing damage loud.
you think he needs a resonator in each side of the pipe or something, just to bring it down a couple of decibels?
Yeah, it's cool, but I would want to be probably 30 meters away at least, not in an enclosed shed, or not in, like a shed. Even though it was open, it was still loud. It was
Yeah.
the whole shed was like vibrating because of how loud it was.
So
I don't know if it actually. I think half of the people were like, "This is too loud. I need to get out of here," and half of the people were like, "This is so cool. It's so loud." So it was. It's people like some people just couldn't decide if they want to leave the building or sit there and watch it.
Yeah.
Anyway. So he hit the wall, and he moved it. It was what I would consider a light tap, and the wall just moved. So I think if they're going to do something semi-permanent or regular, then you would need to have something better than those walls, I think. I don't even know how you'd fix it better, but I know WorkSafe, ACT, or WorkSafe. I don't know. The ones the ones at Archiefield, they don't seem to move at all, and they're really similar.
If they take a big enough hit, they'll move.
I
have a feeling the ones at Archfield, I think, are potentially a touch taller from. That's just me speculating from some of the things that I've seen. The ones at Archie are fairly tall, and these ones looked a little bit shorter. Also, depending on the length of them too.
These are short.
Yeah, and that makes them really light. Where I think the ones at Archfield are probably another half the length of those ones again for most of them. So that makes a big difference.
But I think can you maybe there's stuff inside of like these ones are hollowed out, so they're like slightly lighter.
Yeah, not sure, but it's funny you say that you're worried about them moving yet over it. In D1 Japan and things like that, they use those barriers purposely so that they do give, but only give a certain amount, and then they leave a safety buffer behind them. So for some of those courses, I know Daigo loves to make sweet love with his car with some of those types of concrete barriers, but they tend to have like a big 10-meter safety buffer zone behind them, and rather than using tires that sort of fire you back in front of the car behind you, they sort of suck you up and hold you a little bit more. But then don't completely destroy the car either, unless you sort of grab and get stuck.
It would only be an issue after when they enter the first time, because that's probably when they get the most amount of speed and they do slide in.
Yeah.
And that's on the far side where there's no spectators.
Yeah, but I guess it becomes an issue too that for a small space, is that sort of logistics worth the hassle, other than for something like this style of high profile demo? I would say probably not at that stage. The organizer's better off helping you fund your way down to Wakefield or something like that.
Yeah, so Oh, it was good. Yeah, I was just surprised how easily it moves. I don't know if it's the barrier type is wrong. I don't even know if there's different barriers or they need to be linked together or something.
Yeah, but I guess it's a bit of both directions. Like they could have linked them together, would have made them stronger. But then when guys, I know, so there was Brad had the wall tap, and
Yep.
Nigel crashed the Ute
Yeah,
into two of them.
yeah. I heard. I don't even know what happened
Did you
because
watch?
I saw
There
the
was a
video.
Yeah, you saw the
Yeah.
video. Yeah, I'm not sure. He
So
sort of ran the wall
he got
shut
into
down.
one wall. Yeah, and then he either started again and then hit the other wall because he thought he could keep going.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
yeah, and then he ended up sort of bouncing across. So that was him done after
Yeah.
the first day.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, the wheel was bent, but I couldn't actually tell what was wrong with it.
I think it broke some arms and stuff like that because it's all pretty custom. I think it's all custom.
It's all custom. It's
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I just wasn't because the arms and stuff because he used the geometry from a S chassis, right? So
yeah.
he could potentially use an aftermarket arm of some variety, but I think all his stuff was custom and all one-offs. So that was
It
him.
looked all custom. So it was
That's
probably yeah.
him cooked for the weekend.
Yeah.
So the guys who were driving, a couple of guys came down from Queensland. Ben Mir from Newcastle, Brad Tui, local boy, one of your local boys. Then there was the two Drift Cadet cars. Then there
Yeah, I don't know if anyone was driving the second one or if it's just display.
just display, and then Matty Russell and John Dreyer came up from Victoria. Was
Yep.
there anybody else?
Prior.
Oh yeah, Pryor came across from South Australia.
First day, Daniel.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure
That's-
Daniel Pryor.
Yeah. Okay.
And he's JZ S13.
Yes.
Is it JZ 13?
Yep.
And then
Yeah, it's one.
yeah, and then the
Yeah.
two boys
Got
from
It's got a very 1J sounding engine note. So the guy, one of the guys in the crowd was like, yeah, he really wants to buy a JZX after hearing that car. So he just kept, I just was standing next to him. He's like, man, I really want a JZ. That car sounds awesome. And then, yeah, I don't know who else came. I think so. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah, I think that's it. Just sort of a good amount of cars. It probably had a little bit more space for some more cars, but
No.
for a first off, that was probably a good amount. Oh, and Jake Jones was supposed to make the trip, but
Yeah.
I think the RBM3's been costing him a fair bit of money lately. If you keep up with his YouTube channel, he's been burning the banknotes pretty badly, it seems. So he sort of gave that one a miss, trying to get his S13 up and running to be able to do a little bit more this season, I believe.
Yep. So yeah, there's some other guys that came up as well, I think, to help out. So there was I don't know if you met. There's a guy that I met a long time ago called Kumar. If you've ever seen, there's a lot of people with his face as stickers on their car.
I saw him. I saw Peter get tagged in a post that. Yeah, thanking Peter for letting him come. So I did a little bit of had a quick look, and he looks like he's been around a fair bit. But if you want to give us some background, that would be better, because yeah, I'm not sure who he is.
Well, I met him actually in Japan the first time. He's from Victoria. He's moved around quite a bit. I don't even know what he drifts or if he has a drift car, but he's been in the scene for ages. So 2009. That's when I remember him. And then always usually bump into him at other car events. But then every time I bump into him, he's moved. So he's gone from Melbourne to Sydney. I think he's in Queensland now, and went back to Melbourne at one stage, I think. And yeah, he just keeps appearing. But he was helping out, which is cool. good to catch up with him. And Lee Sullivan. One of the there was a commentator from Vic Drift. I can't remember his name, which is really bad because I've got him on as a friend on Facebook, and
Oh, somebody
also met
actually,
him in Japan.
somebody you actually accepted the friend request from.
I'm pretty sure I am. I can't remember actually. And the Vic Drift president,
Chunga.
yes, he was there as well, co-commentating.
Good.
And they did a pretty good job. It's good because they were, they know these guys, they know the cars, and they could talk about it rather than having a commentator that
Didn't know the guys.
no, they just sort of like there's some other events where I've been to where they just don't know the guys. They're just sort of talking what they see, and it's good to hear some background and a bit more information rather than what you can visually sort of figure out by yourself. Yeah.
Especially when they're when they're doing first and second gear sort of slidey donuts. It's there's not too much. There's no judging going on, so it's sort of you want to know more about who the guys are out there, especially with such a big audience. It's good exposure for the guys who were lucky enough to be able to drive.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, I really like the setup. It was good. I just wish it was a bit bigger. So they kind of started just outside the shed, and then they ran, sort of got up a bit of speed to get an entry in, and that's probably the longest. And they did 4 laps, which is I think they just sort of discussed between themselves. And usually, if they had passengers, they'd do 2 laps, and then they'd rotate between lead and chase, and that was really cool. I kind of wish that they did something a bit more trickier when they were doing the switch, because usually when they went from lead to chase and chase the lead, one just sort of pulled over and the other one sort of drove past.
They kind of had to survive 3 days.
Yeah, it was hot as well. It's really hot.
You want some full blown Nakamura style overtake?
Yeah, that would be cool, because you should being in the crowd and listening to what they're talking about. It's when cars were on door, they were the crowd was really impressed. But sometimes you'd get a separation, and then
sometimes or often.
I'm trying to be nice, okay? I'm trying to be nice. I think there was definitely standouts with the driving there.
Yeah.
The other thing is, Matt Russell, he did this really good burnout when he was just sort of finishing off his tyres, and the crowd went wild for that as well. So, because that's the type of crowd they are. They they come to someone else for burnouts, and then if it isn't exciting, then they're not going to get involved with it. So I think the proximity of the cars is one thing, and then the burnouts, because Matt Russell, he's really cool. He came into the 360 and then whipped again, and huge massive skid that sort of smoked out the whole area, the grandstand area, and then people, because the crowd's there to see burnouts, they were cheering. So it's good that he's sort of pleasing the crowd as well.
Yeah, and I would imagine a lot of people were sort of going to that area too, considering it was shaded. It was a good place to get some respite from the sun, but still get to see some stuff and be entertained at the same time.
Yeah, I went there to stay out of the rain, because it was kept raining every now and again, and then just sort of hid there.
You're gonna melt, mate. You're a witch or something.
No, but at the end of it, so just with Summernats, just as a whole, it used to be like a real big bogan burnouts, like kind of rough and wild. But since the first time I went there till now, to me it's like so much tamer, so much quieter. But then listening to these other guys, like the guys in the drifting area, because I asked them, have you been to Summernats before? And most of them said no. And I ask them what they think, and they think, "Wow, this event's crazy, it's wild." But like with me being to previous summer nats, I'm thinking, this is so much more dull than it used to be. And then it was like that for a long time until probably just before the evening, before the Super Cruise, and then things got a bit rowdy, and it started raining, but we just sort of stood out in the rain because people were just getting wild and a bit crazy, and the police were running around, and it was, yeah, it was interesting. That's the kind of summer nats that I remember. Is that
Yeah.
sort of, yeah.
You're probably more drunk at previous events too.
No, well, no, that's true. I had 0 alcohol this time, and our last couple of times I've had 1 drink, so yeah, more drunk. Man, it's hot. Like if you drink
Yeah.
alcohol, it's gonna dehydrate, and
You're just gonna be a vegetable.
yeah,
A fuckwit and a vegetable.
yeah, I never got that bad.
No, not you, but just the crowd
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah.
So do you think
Sorry.
so Team Clutch Kick, if they can get their cars cleaned up for next year, do you think we'll get an invite?
Into the drifting.
demos, mate.
Uh,
Did you get the knee pads out
No,
well enough?
I don't think we're good enough.
All right, thanks guys for listening. We'll catch you on next week's episode, where I'll just be hosting it on my own, and I'll just sit here and talk by myself.
We'll have to wait and see, actually. So they probably need to, because from what Peter was saying, they as in the safety guys, they really didn't like drifting there. It seemed dangerous, but to me, so I was like, man, there's so much other stuff going on. I think you need to keep your eyes on some other things there. So
Yeah,
I think they could improve, but it was to me, it didn't seem like there was any risk to anyone getting hurt.
You're talking it could be improved safety wise, or?
Yeah, I think it could be slightly better, but cost wise.
Yeah. But you're basically just talking barriers and then potentially trying to keep the crowd a little bit further back from the walls.
No, I think no, the distance was good. Like there was a gap.
Yeah.
Like even there being a wall, there was like a
buffer.
An area. Yeah, there was an area between where the track would be, and so that's where the safety guys were.
Yeah.
And that was a good distance. I highly doubt any of the cars would actually sort of burst through those concrete barriers and into the spectator area. Like it was a good distance there. So
I think people,
yeah.
I think people overestimate sometimes how fast drifters are going because of the amount of noise. Like I put it into Google and had a quick look at distances, and you're looking at about 70 meters or a little bit over 70 meters if they've started from inside the shed to sort of, if you were to run an outside line around that top section, which most people weren't sort of doing, they're sort of cutting it in. So you're probably accelerating hard for 50 meters maybe before you chuck it in 40 meters even, and so you've made it maybe to middle of second, so you're probably going 60k an hour, and then you've got a massive wash off zone, 30 or 40 meters of wash off before you're sort of in the corner skidding anyway. So yeah, the biggest risk would have been doing somebody going too crazy and then totally missing their initiation point or something like that. But the reality is at that stage you would have been hitting the wall at maybe, if you're lucky, 60k an hour.
Yeah, that's if you didn't brake.
Yeah, no braking and no sliding.
Yeah.
And like trying to turn the car.
Yeah, because you'd want to get a lot of wheel spin just so you can actually flick it.
Yeah.
So your car wouldn't be going that fast.
Yeah.
Because the way I'd imagine is I'd short shift a second.
Yeah.
And then turn it in. Yeah.
Little dab of the clutch, get it unsettled, and.
Yep.
And whip it.
I think it was only 70 by 30.
Yeah, so, but I think they were able to start from inside the shed though, right?
Uh,
kind of rolling.
it's hard to tell because they're on the other side. Like there was a like a pit area, and they started from the far side, and I can't really remember what it was.
Yeah.
So it's on the other side of the shed anyway. So
Yeah.
and it was an access road, so they could get a run up from the side, but I don't actually know how much of a run up it was.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I could see where it could be slightly improved, but I I don't see any risk to to shut it down. And then even with yeah, the only thing I might do is link the barriers together because I think if that happened, I don't think it would have moved.
Yeah.
It's such a light touch. Yeah.
Yeah. It would have. Yeah. Just sort of drag. The car would have pushed a little bit, but not dragged it so far. Are the
Yeah.
burnout cars still allowed to run methanol, or is that banned now?
That's a clear burning one, isn't it?
Yeah. Is that
Yeah,
being
I have no idea.
Has that been banned? Because if that hasn't been banned and they're still allowed to run meth in the burnout cars, I would be way more freaked out from anything happening over the burnout side than anything retarded that the drifters could possibly do, other than somebody not doing up wheel nuts properly and launching a wheel.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah, actually, that's a good point.
that's the worst thing that could really happen with a drift car. And considering we all have, they're not automatic, so you ain't gonna get, even if the car gets stuck on throttle, most of us know to shove our foot on the clutch and shut a car down. So the
Yeah.
sort of all the automatics and stuff. So yeah, so they're still allowed to run. They're allowed to run methanol. So I would be way more concerned about burnout cars spitting out fuel vapor and then it igniting than I would be about
Yeah,
anything
and then
anything a drift
methanol's
car's
in-
gonna do. Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah, I don't think there's too many safety concerns with the drifting, and hopefully the safety crews and stuff were a little bit happier after the event was finished, that it all went with not too many dramas.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was good, but at the same time, I did have a chat to some of the guys and going, "Why are you guys going so soft?"
Who did you speak to in particular?
No, actually, there's only one that I said he's gone a bit soft. That was to Matt Russell.
And then he did the burnout.
Yeah, then he was burnout, and I thought, oh yeah, that's pretty cool.
And Ben looked like he was driving really well. He looked like he was
Ben
pushing.
was driving good. He was. I think he was at 80%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And he ended up, sadly, his motor finally died
yeah,
on Sunday
Yeah.
some stage.
yeah, I was. Yeah, but I think he was talking about doing a a refresh of the motor. So I might have
Yeah, I think he was saying he knew it was coming.
not too bad.
Yeah, the car had been down on power since, I believe, before World Time Attack. So supposedly it had been only on the high 200 kilowatt mark since before World Time Attack. So the last two events he drove last season competitively, he did a really good job in the car that he was driving. Not too shabby really. So hopefully he gets that sorted without too many dramas. He sent us a picture and it looks like the bearings on the rods are pretty flogged, but hopefully not too much other damage, so that motor can be rebuilt fairly easy, and it's hopefully just a oil pump failure and then it ate a bearing or something like that. So, or started to eat a bearing. So I think he shut it down as soon as he lost oil pressure. So fingers crossed for Ben. Yeah, last year I think his driving sort of improved tenfold, and he made some changes to the car just before. I think he changed it after World Time Attack. He ended up welding a GTR diff, which is something you don't often see, but his dad is good with a welder and a lathe, so he smashed a whole bunch of weld into a GTR diff, and that thing's fully locked now, and the car looks like it wants to dance a little bit happier. If anybody's gone and watched his in-car footage from the Winton round of High Tech, he was having a shocking time the diff opening up on transitions and stuff like that. It just looked like a
Yeah,
it looked like an absolute bucket to drive. So
man, he looked like an amateur.
yeah, but like super smooth, but just the car didn't want to do what he was like the inputs that he was giving sort of turned into
Yeah,
minor movements where I think if that diff was locked, the car would have been hanging a whole lot more. So yeah, he looked like he was driving super aggressive all weekend. Uh, but I think doing things like drift school, that sort of he's done a lot of drift school and done some of the demos for drift school out at Western Sydney. So those sort of tight spaces aren't too much of a concern for him, and it looked like he went home with a straight car at the end of the weekend. So,
yep, yep.
what were the crowd reactions like to the two old school cars from the two old school four cylinders from Victoria?
So that was funny. We'll start off with John in the Bluebird. So apparently there was like a whole bunch of Bluebird people there, and so they all went over and they saw him and they said, "Hey, let's go for a cruise later." And so they all got into their cars and they went for a cruise at some point, but I didn't see them. There's a lot of guys. Yeah, I was surprised how many fans there were of Bluebirds. I think it's just because they're so unique these days. And one of the guys actually turned up while I was there, and he was talking to John about where he got his bits and pieces from, and So then I think it was good, and he was driving really well, so that really made him and the car stand out a lot. But then the 86, the AE 86 that Matt Russell was driving, so actually on the Friday night when we were driving back from Braddon, so that's the cruise spot, the traditional sort of cruise spot on Friday and Saturday nights for Summer Nats. So after we went and checked out the cars there, I was on my way home and we saw these guys broken down in a VW, a black, I think it was a matte black VW. So I asked them what's wrong. The alternator gave up and they'd just been running on battery power and they were stuck. So I took the guy back to Epic. He grabbed another battery, brought them back, and they installed the battery and then went back to Epic. The next day, I actually bumped into the two girls that were with him, and she was saying how much she likes 86s, and then she asked what Matt was driving, and she didn't actually recognise it was an 86, so it was a little bit funny. So I don't think the A86s are that popular with that crowd these days.
Yeah, probably not. I don't think for most people, unless they're into drifting of some variety, it's probably not something that resonates all that much with most of that crowd.
No.
And honestly, most people, even at that sort of event, will only know maybe what 20% of the cars at that sort of event actually are and be able to name them. They're just going to see cool shit and be like, oh, that's shiny and that's a cool color, and oh, I like the wheels on that.
Yeah, actually, they liked Ben Mears' car. The crowd reaction was cool because his car was loud and it was a V8. It really suited that event.
Ah, Ben dropping panties or boxer shorts, either one.
And Brad Toohey, he had issues the whole weekend. He did the cruise. I think it's on his drift page.
Yep.
I think. So he did the city cruise. He did that fine. Came back. He did the demos for a TV show. No, the project. I think that was on the project, or will be on the project, or something like that. Anyway, he did some sort of demos for TV show, and then his car died, and then he was working on it for like 24 hours.
Be rad. Do you know any ideas what his dramas were?
I think he told me it was wiring, but
similar issues to the last round of high tech.
Yeah, you probably need to get it out of his mouth and right mine because I can't remember. His, yeah,
Look,
he
basically
did the
it's got
same thing of like revving it, and it was freaking loud.
so
It
basically
was
Brad's
crazy
issue was
loud.
it's got four too many cylinders and one too many superchargers.
But I think that car would have suited that event as well
Oh,
because
for
being
sure.
V8 and like he puts on a smoke show.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. And the funniest part is that car when he puts street tires on it doesn't move. Like I'm pretty sure he can pluck almost up to six in that car and be moving at like no speed at all. Because
okay,
the last Wakefield day, when he brought his out to test on a flog set of 123Ss through the between turns one and two on short course at Wakefield, the car wasn't moving at all, but just absolutely smashing the tires to pieces. So I would imagine on street tires that he would have done a fairly good job of them. Did he manage to get the car out there on Sunday?
then he got it out on Saturday, and that's
Okay,
when he tagged the wall. I think a lot of built up drift ready to
tension.
go, and he just threw it in. He threw it in hard. It was cool, but it was a bit too close to the wall, and he tagged it. So
But not nothing too major.
no. I think he just sort of knocked his like bumper off a little bit on one side, so I think he actually took the bumper off. But otherwise, it was fine. Yeah, no issues. It was such a light tap. It was enough to dislodge one side of the bumper, and that was it. So yeah, not. Yeah, I don't think it even damaged. Like it didn't cause any cave-ins or anything like that.
Yeah, so I guess
Did I send a photo about it?
nah,
Maybe I didn't.
nah, you didn't.
Oh, okay.
Um, so what did you
Thought I,
so crowd reaction overall? I know there was a few people commenting whenever someone that's put the video up of people doing like of the drift demos, people questioning where the hell the drift demos were actually taking place.
yeah, they were in a difficult spot to get to.
When you say difficult, like just hard to access, or like people just didn't know they're there.
Um, it's there was no signage to say they were there. Like I went there with the intention to go in there. I think unless you were going to watch the other side of the burnouts, you wouldn't see them.
Yeah, fair enough. And there wasn't signage or anything sort of acknowledging that they were on.
I didn't see any. There might have been signage. Like they could have been signage. I just didn't see any. So it could have been somewhere where I wasn't looking, but yeah, definitely didn't see any.
So
Um,
hopefully, if it all goes down again next year, then they have a little bit more, uh,
yeah,
a
I hope
little
so. And
a little bit more,
yeah,
and like just a little bit more signage and sort of get people to know it's there.
yeah. Well, the core of the event is Tough Street, so that's where people were. They were generally closer towards Skid Row, where that was really cool. Actually, it was good that they did that this year. So the most of the crowd was there, and that's like almost the opposite end of the facility.
Yeah,
So you're talking about the Summer Nats core group being on one side and the drifting being on the other side of the facility, which is and it's big. Like it's I don't know how to describe the size without the numbers, but which I don't know, but it's it's like run the other side.
why
Like
weren't
you
you
have to,
pacing it, mate? You should have been pacing it and getting numbers for us.
yeah, yeah, you have to walk, and then um, I don't even know if it was like this before, but you have to walk around the end of the burnout area just to get to the where the drifting is. So yeah, and it's not visible. The open side is
Yeah,
facing away.
yeah, away
From the
from
area.
the
Yeah,
the burnout pad. Yeah, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. As I said earlier, I would imagine most of the people who are sort of escaping the burnout pad for a little while were looking for a shaded area to hang out. Even the dudes who are wanting to watch the guys in the burnout area on the cruise route and all that would have been doing the same. Uh, it looked like typical summer nats with a few people doing dumb shit, even though there was a designated burnout area. So still typical summer nats there, but it looked like overall compared to previous years, now that they've actually given people a spot that aren't in the burnout comps or want to wait for the burnout comps a spot to do a decent skid, that most people were sticking to doing it in that area, and there was only a couple that
Yeah.
were done off the main drag, and then
Yeah.
also looks like there was a couple of accidents with people not paying attention and walking out in front of cars, or
Oh yeah, I saw that. I didn't see it happen, but I saw the video.
and
Yeah,
then
that's funny.
there was one where it looked like the dude tried to sort of, I'll call it a chirp uh, on the cruise route and end up punting the back of another car. So
Yeah. See, I don't know. Apparently, the throttle got stuck, but yeah, I just
again,
don't know.
and
Yeah.
again, unless it's an automatic, then I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I guess we
Yeah.
spend too much time in manual cars when we're doing silly shit. So you used to sort of, that you've made a mistake, so you generally just shove the left foot to the floor and jump on the brake as hard as you can, and tug the handbrake and hope that everything locks
Yeah,
up
but
and stops.
most people, like even when they're driving autos, they've got their hand resting on the shifter, so you just put it in neutral.
Now you pull back, so then you pluck it down into first.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
whatever. Anyway.
But did you see the stories going around about what actually went down with, so anybody who's seen Chain Man or whatever the hell it was, that the
Yeah.
VSVR Ute, that guy's got a life ban already, and it was entered under his partner's name or something like that. And then he was
Yeah.
driving it all weekend, and then I don't know if somebody noticed or he was just showing the middle finger to the organisers, ripped a massive skid in sort of the spectator area, and then put it up on the trailer, and then I think they probably told him that,
That was a camping area, wasn't it?
yeah, something like that, one of those areas, like
Yeah.
a general admission type area, and then
No, I think it's limited to entrance.
is that, I don't know how any of that works.
I think. Yeah.
And
I
then
think.
once he was up
Yeah.
on the back of the flatbed tow truck, he proceeded to rip another skid.
Yeah. Apparently, he was told. So the cops came and the cops told him to unload the car so the cops could pick up the car and take it away.
Yeah, I probably would have given him the finger and just
It's ACT. Everything's Crown land, so the cops have authority.
so it's not classified as private or anything like that.
Oh nope.
Ooh.
So it's ACT Crown land.
Oh, that'll be on your next police auction. So if you want to buy a blown VR VS Ute, then there might be one
No.
for sale.
He's interstate. He'll just get it given back after paying for storage for 30 days or something.
Soft.
Um,
Will he get charged with endangering lives or anything?
I don't know. No idea. Probably. It is Canberra, so they'll probably do that. But apparently the bigger issue was that apparently when he was doing this skid, he kicked up a rock and smashed people's windscreens.
Yeah, I suppose they're Rolls Royce or something like that in the comments.
Supposedly, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And generally, those guys that do turn up to those events, they're generally like that. I'm not saying all of them are, but there's a lot that.
Yeah, I guess considering
Mm.
his past history, he probably showed up with the intention of dumb shit, and that's why all the long run, if the events to continue, they probably end up with facial recognition software or something that can pick people out of a crowd who aren't supposed to be there.
Yeah, well, you just needed to. I think you just need it for the entry because the entry and the exits are pretty limited, and they're scrutinized already for things like alcohol and bottles and things like that. So, yeah, it's definitely you could put that sort of thing in there, and yeah, it would be easy to manage, I think.
Yeah, but if you've come in under a general admission ticket and then you've got other people to organise the other half of it, and then you just sort of grab somebody's pass and do all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but you still have to go through like one of the entrance gates, and they
Yeah.
are like when you go in. You do when you first enter. You got to go get your ticket, and you get a wristband, and you could do the IDing there, like
Yeah.
right, because someone looks at you, and then you got to go through um, the security. So if you have bottles or bags, and they go through your bags, they go through. Um, I think as long as you have a glass bottle or it looks like alcohol, then they'll let you through. So you do like there is screening if you wanted to screen people.
Yeah. So just got a message from one of the guys I have on Facebook who's friends with the guy, actually knows the guy with the Rolls Royce, and yeah, so J-Man and his missus have both lost their license, and they've had the ute confiscated, and now they both have life bans, and yeah, more to come.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's just I guess probably I'm guessing that something happened last year or something, you know, probably a fairly recent previous year, and he's basically gone back just to be a fuckwit. So
yeah, probably. There's a lot of people like that anyway.
so
I don't think any event or group, yeah, or anything like that would have people um, not trying to do something like that anyway.
yeah.
So
So yeah, 2020 Team Clutch Kick at for drift demos at Summernats. Maybe we'll bring EG's bangers and we'll just run into each other. The crowd will love it.
yeah, they will actually. They really like. It is entertaining though. Like if you're like um, even if you go to a drift event, you like to see when people are like, as a normal spectator, not a drift person, you would like to see two cars close together rather than two cars on either side of the circuit.
Oh yeah, at that stage it's just two cars doing individual runs. So
Yeah. So, and
I can
then if they're crashing, or to a point,
yeah
then
I can understand Nigel sort of doing solo runs because he hasn't driven that car that much, and um, it's yeah not easy to repair. It's just a shame he met the fate that he did off his own, either his own fabrication or off a minor mistake. But yeah, so
yeah, I've barely seen him drive as well.
yeah, I don't think he's been riding bikes a lot, doing flat track dirt stuff. So
Yeah, it's interesting. He is still quite popular though, because I hear about him from other friends.
well,
So the guys that
he's
aren't drifting, but
he's still doing like a regular blog, like that he started way back. Like he's one of those guys who actually continued doing his write-ups on his website, and he's still doing a
yeah,
whole bunch of fabrication, but it's just revolving around him doing bikes and doing some cool trips with the bikes and stuff. So
yeah,
and he's still got all the same cars. They're just sitting tucked away while he fabricates smaller things that he can tuck away behind the drift cars. So
yeah. So he's like I've got mates that drift and don't drift, and they sort of keep up to date with him, or they know of him, are fans or anything like. But yeah, me personally, I haven't seen him drive in a very long time.
yeah, yeah, and that car just hasn't had enough outings. Hopefully, he just tries to get it out a little bit more because yeah, it seemed like a bit of a handful. Really gripped up for.
Yeah, it didn't look nice in the videos.
Nah,
It
not
just
really.
really, it looked like he was fighting the car a lot.
Yeah, yeah, like way too much grip for that sort of like for that sort of circuit. But I think the last time may have been driven was either World Time Attack
Yeah.
or
Did he
his
take it to
or his trip
motorway?
to. I'm not sure. Or his trip to New Zealand, which was on a big
Oh yeah,
which was
that's
at like
right.
Highland Parks or Hampton Downs or something fairly big and
Yeah,
sweeping. So, uh, yeah, probably needed 60 or 70 pound in the rear tires and just go full cook on it. But yeah, it looked like a bit of a handful. But yeah, so if you guys could petition to Peter for Team Clutch Kick next year. Guaranteed that we'll write off one car or both.
Greg wants me to run off my car because it's cheaper.
Yeah, but for the sake of it, it'd be funny as hell. So I'm sure we can find. I'm sure we can find a 350 shell somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen them. I've been keeping an eye out actually, just because you've got one.
There hasn't been many manual cheap ones
Not,
show up.
Not since. Well, actually, I can't. I've never seen a cheap one enough. I haven't seen a cheap enough one for me yet. But there have been shells popping up, but I think they're not very good buys in comparison to like a full car.
Nah, they're not. Yeah, not the cheapest thing to run. Basically, if you're gonna run them, you run them as standard as possible.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, I was looking at.
Or common model as well.
Yeah, for sure. But even then, looking online, still keep an eye out, and yeah, you're still looking. I haven't seen one under 10 for a little while since I bought mine, really. So yeah, not really. Yeah, something you sort of keep an eye out, or you find a really ugly one that some dude's done up, and they think it's the hottest car that they've ever built in their life, and you basically just slag it. So
Are you talking about yourself there?
a little bit. There was a really ugly yellow one for sale, but it was auto, and the dude wants like 16k for it, and it's like, yeah, it's like not even auto salon early 2000s quality. It's not good. So I probably just offended somebody, but whatever.
We'll get more ratings, so.
Yeah, that's okay. That's peak time. So
Okay.
yeah.
So yeah.
2020. Team Clutch Kick.
Hopefully I have a running car. Oh, yeah, the other news, which doesn't affect you because you don't go to Japan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So off topic. So that's Summer Nats 2019. Hopefully, EG's pushing Peter from Drift Cadet to come on, and hopefully around Maguire Motor X, he said that we might be able to twist his arm to get him on. So that's when we'll catch up with him. But yeah, I posted in the community page, like a week ago, less than a week ago now. Basically any car that's running at the shoe over in Japan that's being run by Power Vehicles, or I think anybody who's round-eyed has to run a bolting cage at a minimum, a bucket seat.
Cage, yeah.
A full cage, a bucket seat, and a harness.
Yeah, harness with a harness bar, which
you'd expect with a cage.
Yeah, not
all
really.
Those cages don't really have them.
I don't remember them having. I don't remember most of them having it, especially a no-name one. And there was 4 things, wasn't it? So it was a cage, a seat, both drivers and passengers, harness and a harness bar. I think that's 4 things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but they didn't say they didn't have a regulation on the type of cage.
It said it can go. It can be one that goes around the dash. Around the dash. So your Cusco ones and that are enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
could be aluminium and it's fine.
Yeah. So full bolting cage is okay. Full roll cage bolting is okay. Min 6 point. Around the dash is okay. Bucket seats. I guess that means if you want passengers. And then harness bar at no lower than 10 degrees and a 4-point harness. So yeah, so I guess, how do you think it will really affect prices of cars, prices of going, all that sort of stuff? Because isn't there would be a whole bunch of Cusco cages and cages floating around over there that I would imagine are probably sitting in heaps of Jap guys' garages that just aren't being used.
Yeah. Realistically, like if you really wanted to get away with it cheap, you could probably spend like $100 on each of those items.
Yeah.
Um,
So there you go. For the fact that it probably at that stage it won't cost your family $100,000 to get you put on a plane in a hospital bed and get you home.
that's you could. So whether or not you can, like, is in if you were going next week, or actually it's all snowed in, but say you bought a car and then the next week you're gonna go drifting, trying to find all that gear. If your car doesn't have it, you might have to spend a bit of money. So, um, I think from the sounds of it, Power Vehicles are trying to
Source.
sort out, yeah, options for you. But last time when uh, so one of my mates tried to get a seat, it seemed they said it would be available, but they've always said that things would be available when you got there. They weren't there, so you kind of have to source it yourself and prepare. So I'm not saying that they don't have it, but sometimes they overestimate the stuff that they have, and they don't actually have things in stock.
Does,
So
does Wish.com sell? Does Wish sell? bucket
yeah, but when
seats?
they'll be mailed to you in like a matchbox.
But then you just add water, like let it soak for 24 hours, and it ends up the
Well,
right size.
haven't you seen that joke? Like, there's a meme going around. It's like when you order a car part, like a wing, off Wish
Oh,
or
yeah,
whatever,
and
and
it's
it
just a
turns
little.
up, and it's like it sits in your palm of your hand.
I've seen a
Yeah,
couple where people have bought jack stands off eBay, or like they've claimed they've bought them and then haven't realized that they're like die-cast style
twice.
ones
Yeah,
for like for
yeah,
when people are doing RC drifting and stuff like that.
yeah.
But a group buy on some seats, or even if Buddy Power Vehicles did bought in 100 seats from direct from Buddy some Chinese factory, they're probably gonna get them for $50 each and can probably flog them for 300 or 400 bucks Aussie and make a huge profit on them.
Nah, nah. You reckon? I don't think so.
Nah, you'd be able to get a bulk buy on some rep seats for pretty cheap.
Yeah,
So
I think Power Vehicles would bring in um like average seats and sell them for a bit more.
that's what I mean. Average seats like a bulk buy of Chinese
Yeah,
ones.
not cheap ones. Yeah, it'd be like average ones.
And when they say bucket seat, are they? I wonder if they're talking fixed back or if they're talking
No,
reclinable.
no, like reclinable's fine.
Yeah.
So there was actually the guy. So this is all in relation to the guy that rolled his car on North Course and made him like a paraplegic, quadriplegic,
Yeah.
because he
Currently.
can't use his arms from his elbows down. I think it was. So he
Yeah, I
can
might
move
have.
his shoulders, but I think like his hands he can't move. I think his wrists he can't move.
Yeah.
And at some point he has movement, but it's not his whole entire arm.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
and he commented as well on that thread.
did he?
Yeah, he
Okay.
did. So he was saying that he's not sure if that cage would have helped him in that scenario, because the issue was he's quite tall and his head was already touching the roof of the car. So when it rolled, it rolled on. There's nothing there. But if he had the option of going back and adding a cage, he would.
Yeah. And you can always play the what if scenarios, but any sort of extra buffer is an extra buffer. So yeah, he might have given himself like a fractured vertebrae or something, but it might not have done the damage that it had done if it was there. But he also, if he was in a bucket seat, might have been sitting slightly lower too, though, or might have done a different. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think if it was a. I've seen photos of bolting cage installs, and when they're not really fixed to the car, then I've seen the legs after a rollover they've just punched through the
To the
floor.
floor.
Yeah, because
The plates aren't big enough, or haven't been, or they've just they've bolted them on one side and haven't sandwich plated them and things like
well
that.
even that, I think because those cars are so old, they just like I've seen some EBC cars where there's so much rust underneath them that you can actually see the track from the
Yeah.
inside of the car because they're so rusted.
Well, and I guess that's where my next question comes in. When you're talking your Cusco safety 21 cages and all that sort of thing, even in your 14s and 15s, they sit just before the back seats, where if you get your sort of more Aussie spec cages like your AGIs, they generally have a plate welded into the rear seat area. It's a little bit further back and are on that sort of media part of the car, and also gives the driver more clearance to not be sitting with their face. For I guess for a non-Japanese person, average height's a little bit shorter in Japan, but a
Yeah.
white person with a Japanese cage in a small car like that, unlike a JZX or something like that, is going to be pushed hard up against their steering wheel. So rather, most people are going to have to run concave steering wheels, but turn them around the other way, and then run them with the dish pointed the other direction.
Yeah.
But look, the, I would imagine, and I think you said that the Japanese government's probably got a little bit to do with this, because I would imagine it probably went fairly big news in
Yeah.
Japan,
Look.
because it was
Yeah.
fairly high profile, because it went high profile here. But the reality is, putting those sort of restrictions in place is fairly mo
Oh,
fairly mo yeah, go.
I remember. Yeah, you have to have insurance.
Yeah, so that's what I was about to say, is
Yeah.
fairly fairly cheap compared to making sure that, for the track themselves, making sure that every person who has shown up has proper motorsport insurance that will cover them in the event of that sort of accident. Because some people are still going to
Yeah.
show up and want to risk it.
Yeah. Well, because of that reason, where the article and the news about it, Jake actually went looking for insurance that covers motorsport. And he found some. It's not even that expensive. Like it's only like $100 more.
But this is what I mean, and like that's the same sort
Yeah.
of stuff we went through when Danielle and I were competitively skating still. Was, yes, most of your things will say don't cover extreme sports and things like that. But if you go there and specifically ask for it, generally it's not that much more, because they don't it doesn't it doesn't happen all that often. So
Yeah.
it's the same reason that our CAMS insurance for our year is $65 or whatever it is, like, less than $100, because the likelihood of an accident is generally not that high that you're going to have to pay out the crazy sums of money. But just sadly, when it does happen, that you go through what the guys from Perth went through, and yeah, it is a lot of money. So if anybody's having
Yeah.
a whinge, if you want to go and help this poor guy who's had the accident out for a couple of days, and help him get in and out of his chair, help him shower, help him eat, do all that sort of stuff, I think you'll really quickly be paying for your cage in Japan, and looking for insurance that covers you, because uh, I'm just not sure that's a situation anybody ever wants to be in themselves. So
I don't want to be in it, but I'm still. I think. Yeah. I don't.
come up to Sydney for a couple of days, or I'll let you know when my mum's down doing assessments for the NDIS down in the Canberra Queanbeyan area, and you can go with her and do some visits with people.
What's that? NDIS.
The National Disability thing, she does assessments for people, for the government, to see what sort of help they need and all that. So uh, yeah, you can go out with her and do some assessments, and see what some of these guys look like who have fallen off motorbikes on the street or been in car accidents and things like that.
Yeah, but that's a risk, and
Yeah, but it's
I don't think a cage would actually, like an aluminium cage with a
well, an
kink in
aluminium
the front
cage.
legs.
Are they actually aluminium? Cusco cages? They're not aluminium, surely.
Aren't
I
they
think that
aluminium? They feel
no,
aluminium.
they couldn't be. No, I think they're just thinner gauge steel. There's no way they're aluminium. An aluminium one, you'd bend it putting it in the car.
They're so weak.
Sure,
I don't know if I can
surely,
look it up.
yeah, surely not. Okay, at that stage, make sure you've got insurance. Jake just said it's hard to find. Um,
It's hard to find that. insurance.
So if
Yeah.
Jake, you're willing to share, chuck it up in the community page. Nick just said safety 21 is steel, and Nick saying you presume, but because you have a cage that you're now safe. If you're that basic, well, chances are you're probably going to drive off a cliff or something at that track anyway. So
That's the comment that Stewie made, I think, in one of the posts where, there was sort of the assumption that you'd be completely covered if you had a cage, but
no, the
no,
reality is you should still have. You should still have proper insurance, and most of the
it's
insurance
not that.
companies.
I think you should just. I mean, I can understand accidents happen, but
But the reality is
you
that
know,
rollover
you can
in
you
that
can only do so much. Yeah.
but that sort of rollover and that sort of chassis would be happen even if you lost it at middle of second, top of second, midway through third. It's gonna cave the roof on that style of car on that style of course when you run up an embankment like that, and then it ends up on its lid. And if you're a taller dude, then that sort of shit's gonna happen. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what speed you're at. Like it's the weight of the car coming down, not the speed of the accident.
Yeah. Well, I think it was talking about bucket seats. I'm gonna guess at the moment because I can't remember exactly. So when one of Blake's mates, Sean, when he rolled his car, I'm pretty sure his bucket seat wasn't a fixed back and it went flat. So
Yeah,
that actually,
well, that's why I questioned it, because there's a few videos online from accidents on racetracks where I think, have you ever seen the one? I don't think it was a drift event over in Europe somewhere, and the guy crashes, and then all of a sudden he's got a passenger in the car, and his seat fully snaps backwards, and he's basically lying flat, and his mate's having to
that was the
reach across.
MX-5, wasn't
Yeah, something like no, it
it?
wouldn't have been an MX-5 because it wouldn't have ended up so far back. I think it would have been some sort of hot hatch of some variety. But yeah, look, if you want protection, put a fix back in the bloody thing. Um, but yeah, look, but then again, in this case, a seat doing that might have saved his head.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is you could
Yeah,
like he
yeah,
could have had a fixed back, and if it was a fixed back that held him in that position, rather than it giving way like a reclinable, like a standard seat or a reclinable seat, then
yeah, might have been worse.
it's why
Yeah,
wouldn't you?
it's all circumstance, I guess, but for that sort of facility with embankments rather than flat face walls slowing down cars, the chances of a rollover is high on most of the tracks there. So
Yeah, so that's why I think you should drive within your own sort of safety limits.
yeah,
And if
I
you
still just
feel
think on that bend on North Course, if you're still coming over there at moderate speed and the car washes out and doesn't turn for whatever reason, even if you've had some sort of failure, then the weight of the car itself and how flimsy the roof on some of those cars is still going to cave.
yeah, I think most of the cars are going to cave.
So yeah, look, I agree. And on an Aussie track, I would say don't worry about it too much because most tracks you're going to hit a flat-faced wall and you're just going to run
Yeah,
along it. So it's going to be your surrounding structure that's going to take the impact. But when you're dealing with embankments, the number of rollovers that sort of happen over there in a 12-month period, man, I think Daigo put a couple on a roof in a year, and that's just one dude.
yeah,
So when you got one of the best drivers in the world doing it fairly often, and yes, I understand he's driving to his limit and past it, and that's a lot higher than most other people, but that's the style of crash that takes place there. So I don't think it'll look. People are going to say it's gonna play in favor of the dudes with money, but yeah, again, if
I think you can get away with it. It's if you know early enough and you prepare early enough, you can find just like you can find junk that you can put in there.
Yeah.
To satisfy those rules. I guess it's up to you how much you value
and and
Or
4 point harnesses you can get for under $100 and just carry them with you.
yeah, well, no, you just buy them there. It's not that
Well,
expensive.
I'm just saying like it's a sort.
Secondhand ones.
But I'm just saying
Yeah,
it's a sort of thing that that sort of thing will fit in your bag and you can take with you if you're that worried about that sort of thing. Even a basic harness bar, if you can't source one over there, you can you can take one over with you that isn't pushing the friendship too much on your luggage, but anything bigger than that, then you start to push the friendship on your luggage. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting what happens this year with it, but I don't think there'll be a huge tax on most of those parts because you raise the tax too high on them. And when I say tax, I mean people expecting to get too much money for them. Then people just won't go, and you won't sell them, so you won't make your money on them anyway. So you know there ain't no tax on something that you don't ever get paid for. So
yeah, yeah. It also, I don't know, it's. I don't think this is the necessary reaction anyway.
yeah, yeah, I don't know. I think it is. The next biggest thing would be forcing people to prove that they have proper insurance.
I think insurance would be a good thing
Yeah, but
because
then
that's probably the more because you could still hurt yourself in that. You can still.
yeah, of course. Like, I would imagine that would be the next step, but that's them trying to not have to deal with all that extra sort of paperwork and having to look in to make sure that people when they show that when they show up with their policy and all that it's all actually covered. So that's them being like, okay, well we've looked after our half. We've tried to make the drivers as safe as they can be. The rest is their responsibility.
Yeah.
So, and shit, if foreigners stop coming because the Japanese government's put some sort of ban on it or on the facility or whatever, then they're all out of a job. So,
No, I don't think they care that much.
so yeah, I guess we wait and see.
So yeah, it's interesting. I think
Do you have cages in yours?
in my cars over there.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Oh.
Connor's got a cage in his, but his car was a race car, so it's
His isn't even a real
okay.
drift car.
In your eyes, anyway. So he has. I think he has a full welding cage, and it's quite extensive.
Oh, fancy. And then Jake's got one of his.
Jake has a the front half, I think it was. So he's missing the rear legs.
Just take some PVC pipe and finish it off.
Yeah, well, I think it's probably be fine. I think even if you just install two like rear members onto the arches, and then I don't think they'll mind. But it's just the space as well, because that's another thing you need to store. And I think it's lucky that it's bolt-in. That's probably a good thing that they restricted to that. So you just unbolt some of the members.
So you can fit more stuff in at the end of your trip.
Yeah.
He said he's missing the window brace and the cross brace.
Oh, okay. I thought it was missing the rear legs. That's what I thought.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see at Spring Matsuri whether or not it has a massive impact on people.
I mean, the car prices have been going up, so you can't, or you. No, I'm not saying you can't. So you could go there cheap, but generally the people going these days, they have money, so I don't think it'll affect them that much. Especially if they can, even if it costs them an extra grand, I don't think it'll affect them that much.
Yeah, and just peace of mind. But yeah, insurance-wise, just I found when I was competing overseas, one cover was really good. So I don't know what company Jake's found, but I would be giving one cover a call and seeing what they cover you for. Your fairly generic ones are pretty crappy, but your your specialized travel insurance companies like your One Covers are generally pretty good and understanding of all that sort of stuff, and they'll look after you accordingly. So yeah, definitely look into that. I just would not ever be going over there without some sort of proper insurance that covers you for what the activity that you've chosen to do. And shit, if you're doing that, then you can always stitch on your skiing and your bungee jumping or something as well. So you can do all the crazy shit in one hit.
Yeah.
But yeah. Um, IDC Drift Games, whatever it's called now, has been doing more and more with their social media channels. So yeah, have a look at that. I've been enjoying sort of some of their content that's been coming up. I thought there was going to be a bigger punch of content come through, but it's been a little bit slow. But they did a recap of the Drift Masters series from last season, and really does build the hype behind competition. And I watch it, and then it gets me excited, and then I'm like, oh, I want to get myself back out there in a comp car, and then I think about it and be like, yeah, they give you the 5 minutes, the 5 minute snippet from a 2 day event that gets you all amped and all that sort of stuff, and yeah, it does
But
a good job of building that. But
you suit a comp car, like your style, the way you sort of think out
yeah,
when
well,
you go to like a comp event is good, and that's what I think there needs to be more people like you in drift comps. But I think you need to find a better
a
car.
money tree.
Yeah, actually, your money tree is not bad, is it? Because
Nah, I want to be.
your cars are been pretty decent.
That, but that money trees. I'm 30 now. I'm trying to be sensible. I have an idea. I have an idea for a comp car when the time comes. That should be a pretty good comp car if I ever go down that route. So
Oh,
stay tuned. 20,
okay.
2021 build or 2020, probably 2021. So
Can you hint anything?
yeah, why
Is it
not?
going to have its original motor?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
it'll have a factory motor.
All right.
That'll still
So
have
there won't be any LS conversions or anything like that.
nah, not conversions.
No.
So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, but
And you're a Holden boy, so be Commodore.
yeah, definitely a Commodore. One of the new front wheel drive ones.
No, I'm waiting to see that wagon start drifting.
Nah, that wagon's gonna be for sale soon. So so yeah, follow Drift Games. Their stuff, yeah, looks like there's gonna be more and more coming out on it soon. So it'll just be interesting to see where they take the direction.
It's on YouTube, Facebook,
Yeah,
Instagram.
yeah, all of the above.
Okay.
Any of their videos or their longer videos will be on on YouTube. So,
Yep.
the other thing, anybody who's actually in the community page and has listened this late into the show probably is in the community page and follows fairly often. I posted a video that popped up in my news feed, or in my sort of suggested feed on YouTube. I'm free through the middle of the day, so I watch a lot of YouTube crap. And lately
I noticed that.
and lately I've been watching some NASCAR videos, and a video came up about what killed NASCAR, and it's sort of nothing's killed it just yet, but sort of a prediction in the future that it'll all sort of be over by 2025. And if you aren't in the community group, just have a look on YouTube and type in what killed NASCAR, and if you're in the community group, just have a look at the video, and it just brings up some interesting points about how it started as a grassroots sport, and then to try and attract bigger sponsors that tried to sort of fall more towards the casual viewer rather than the die-hard fans. And during that time, it peaked very quickly and then died off very quickly. And they even described it at some points as a fad. So yeah, it's just a really interesting it's an interesting video. So take a look at it, take from it what you like, and if you sort of understand why I shared it. But yeah, it really is an interesting take on like to me something very similar to what drifting is, where it's it started very grassroots and the competition started very grassroots, but the competition was fierce and real and accessible, and now it's not so much. And that's me talking from a high level competition point of view, not from a grassroots events that still take place. Like oval racing still exists in the US, and will forever, for me, will forever continue in the US, the same as there'll be some form of drifting forever taking place as long as people can get their hands on rear drive cars or some sort of vehicle that they can, or yeah, some sort of vehicle that they can slide around. It'll forever, take place. So, but on that mainstream, big scale, big money, big sponsors, yeah, I don't know. It's just a very interesting video to watch. So yeah, have a look at that if that's the sort of thing that interests you, and be interesting to see either some more comments on it. As Shane Beresford, one of our guests from last year, said, the best thing about drifting is that you can still enjoy drifting without needing that side of it. So if that side of drifting was to die out, similar to what they're predicting with NASCAR, then for the majority of people, it doesn't really impact them. But from I don't know, from continuing to keep new blood in the sport, having that level of the sport is still good. So yeah.
But yeah, it needs to be ramped up, or sort of set in a way that people can maintain it.
Yeah, and for it to make sense.
It's actually self-sustaining.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I just thought, yeah, I don't know what your thoughts on that video and the relevance to the sort of situation that you sort of know I was getting at with it, but I think it's...
Yeah, I thought it was, pretty much smack on here.
Yeah.
But I think people are still going to disagree, and they're going to...
Yeah, of course.
Maybe they might go in with an open mind, or they'll just say, no, it's NASCAR, drifting is different.
But the one comment, and for anybody who follows racing worldwide, the one comment that really did it for me was when they said that Roger Penske said he could run 4 Indy cars for what it costs him to run 1 NASCAR.
Yes.
And that for me was just like, you'd think the open wheel car would be way more fancy, way more high cost, all this sort of stuff, yet he can run 4 of them for the cost of 1 NASCAR for a season, and their seasons are about the same length. It's just ridiculous at that point, and I think that becomes checkbook racing. And even today there was a example of that within Australia. Garth Tander, long-time V8 supercar drivers, lost his seat at one of the V8 supercar teams because a young dude's been able to bring a sponsor over to the team that he had that drive with, and the money talks because this kid can bring over a major sponsor to the team. So it really is sort of at a high level checkbook racing more than it is skill racing, and people will lose interest because the racing it's just not as good. You watch V8 supercars.
The video explains it really well.
Yeah.
Like, you just lose both fans, like the guys that are fad and like guys that are hardcore.
Yeah.
Hardcore.
Because it becomes boring, and when you think about your V8 supercars racing and stuff like that, you sometimes look at it and you're like, how much is it Jamie Whincup and Chan Van Gisbergen being in the best cars, and how much is just them being raw talent, and then how much is the guys being at the back, them being in crappy teams or not so strong teams, or them paying their way to be there and actually not being the best drivers. So there's good examples of that in things like FD and D1 and all sorts of series around the planet. So yeah, have a look at that video. It's just interesting. If you find it interesting and you want to argue with me, I don't really care. I don't want to hear your points, to be honest.
Just watch your show and start commenting there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
but I just find it interesting that a sport that started building stadiums for, there's no stadiums bigger in the world than NASCAR facilities. You're talking 150 to 200,000 people stadiums. There is not stadiums bigger than that in the world, and they built them for a reason because they're pulling crowds that big. They no longer pull crowds that big. So yeah, have a look. Think what you want to think about the relevance to drifting, but yeah, definitely an interesting watch. So topic for a long topic for another day. Um, we we try and keep as much of that. I post up. There'll be days where I've watched a whole bunch of videos and I'll post up a bunch of stuff in that little group, and I'll take digs at people too. But if you do listen fairly religiously, the page is the Clutch Kick community group, or just Clutch Kick community. It's a closed group. We do have EG and I can approve you to come in. We basically don't knock anybody back unless you look like you're some Nigerian scam, or the first thing you getting banged on a couch or something. Normally they're the ones that we reject, or EG lets in, and then he rejects everybody else. You've got more chance of being accepted into that group than EG accepting your friend request on Facebook. But post up things of interest in there. I posted up a video of that Matt Field and Odie Buckshees did for Chelsea Denofa. That's a how to tandem thing, and it was just.
I haven't watched that yet.
It was actually pretty good and quite interesting. Like a couple of things with it I listened to and I was just like, oh, that clicked. So next time I'm out driving, I'm gonna sort of focus on that stuff a little bit more. So,
What was that?
The sort of wait for the middle of the car as it comes across your face, like across the front of your car and then just push in hard. I think I do it naturally, but it's sort of trying to get timing. So they're talking about on a switchback, like when you're sitting and you back off to let the car, as soon as the cars are sort of in line with each other, then get back on it to push back into the car in front. They tried to do it and then they hit each other at one stage, but yeah, it was just the way it was worded, and I was like, oh, it makes sense. So yeah, it's a good watch and just etiquette and stuff like that. So we try and keep things like that in that group. So
Etiquette's an important thing, I think.
well,
and then
get yourself a headset.
then
you
it's time.
Then you can just abuse each other without having to give hand signals.
Yes. Yeah, hand signals that sort of don't make sense sometimes. Yeah.
Alright, so for some reason we're gonna have a threesome. Okay, let's go. But yeah, so that group's there. Have a look at that. Anything else you want to sort of cover? Or are you happy to ease into it, and then hopefully next week we can nail down a fucking guest, because we're looking like useless assholes right now.
I'm trying to keep it relevant, so
at this stage, relevant would be having a guest.
Well, I tried to. Anyway, I think we might just not a random, but like I'm just trying to keep it relevant to things that are happening. So if an event happens, then we get someone to help wrap up or like introduce.
Well, next week there isn't much happening other than D1NZ. We can message Matty Hill, see if he's around. If not, we've got a list of people we can actually ask, and we should ask them early that aren't related to D1NZ, that don't need an event, and we'll just talk to them so that we're not super stuck. Because this time of year, there's not much going on.
Yeah, I know. I understand this. Completely aware. I was so focused on this one person.
Peter, you let us down, mate. We're just gonna chuck him under the bus. So.
We need him for next year. Someone else.
Yeah, but Peter, we love you. You're like the best thing ever.
So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. So I'll
we'll chase up the next wonderful person on our list.
We've got people that were interested, they have expressed interest. So when we've spoken to them, they said yes, they'll come on. But I sort of told them I kind of want to line them up with something that's sort of relevant, and then they've got time, and it fits in with this the schedule of events. But
Fuck it, let's just start pumping people through.
okay.
Mitch,
Um,
Jake
if there's
Jones.
anyone that anyone wants to hear,
Jake Jones, because he's doing more with his social media. I know he's been on a couple of other podcasty things, but we'll still take him. And go watch his latest video. His
Haltech video.
I wasn't gonna mention companies, but he puts it on a company. Go have a listen.
The title would be fine.
Yeah, that's right. Mitch Lana, I'd love to hear what he's trying to make work for. And he's expressed I've spoken to him and he's happy to come on. I know he's done a couple of other shows and podcasts, but I just want to hear what he's up to with trying to make 2019 work over in Europe. Definitely want to.
We'll get Stewie back on as well.
Yeah,
we'll actually talk about him because he did a really good job talking about the event.
Yeah.
And we do want to interview guests.
We need Stewie season, so like the whole of winter is just talking to Stewie. The 3 months of winter.
And his garage door banging away.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, alright, I think we're going to wrap this one here, and then, we'll catch you guys next week, and hopefully there's a third box in there somewhere.
Cool. Sounds good. We'll try and announce it early, so I'm going to start messaging you people tomorrow.
Yeah. Alright, catch you guys next week.
Alright, see you guys.